All right, good morning, Savannah, and welcome to the Savannah Business Showcase. I'm your host, Therese, and I'm here this morning with two great guests. Brynn Grant, Vice Chair of Leadership Southeast Georgia and CEO of the Savannah Economic Development Authority.
COO.
COO.
That's an important distinction since there is a CEO.
Also, and I'm also here with Cynthia Wright, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, of the Administrator of Leadership Southeast Georgia. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about Leadership Southeast Georgia. But first, the way I like to start the show is with the scenario. Okay. And I'll give it to you first, Brynn, and Cynthia, you can chime in. Mm-hmm. So here's the scenario. You are walking through your neighborhood. A little kid comes up to you and says, Brynn, you're my hero. Cynthia, you're my hero. How can I be like you when I grow up? So in the language that a 10 to 12-year-old can understand, what does it take to be Brynn Grant?
I guess I would say always do your best and always treat other people the way you would want to be treated and be willing to work hard, sometimes harder than anyone else is willing to work. Is that language anybody could understand?
Anybody can understand that. Very true.
I like that a lot. I was going to say volunteer, but really also work hard and have fun at the same time. Just remember that family is number one all the time, and then your friends, and then all of your community. So support everyone you can as much as you can.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. Great.
That's a tough question. Way to get us started with our thinking caps on.
There you go. I like to set it up because the goal of the show is just to inspire other entrepreneurs to kind of take the leap, into entrepreneurship and to business ownership and to being involved in the community. So it's a great way to start the show. So, Brynn, tell the people a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the Savannah Economic Development and Leadership Southeast Georgia and all that good stuff.
I started working for the Savannah Economic Development Authority in 1996.
Okay, all right.
Wow. I almost hate to even say that year because that is so long ago, and probably some of your listeners may not have even been born. But I had graduated from the University of Georgia. I came to work for an advertising agency in Savannah. I grew up just a little south of here in Liberty County in Hinesville.
Okay.
And I thought I would, I didn't really expect to come back down to southeast coastal Georgia after college, but I got a full-time job in my field, which was really rare. At the time, it was definitely an employer's market when I graduated college, and most people I knew who had degrees and had done really well were waiting tables for 4 or 5 years, just doing anything they could do to make money before they actually were, getting into professional jobs. So I was very lucky. And that was a result of two things, I'm going to say. Number one, it was a result of who you know. And I didn't really maybe even understand that until then. My stepfather worked for a company, and this advertising agency, they were the client of this advertising agency, Vauder Advertising in Savannah, Georgia. And he just asked them casually. He did not think he was pressuring them at all, but because of who he was, asking them to have an intern, they responded with, "Of course we will." And they dreaded it. Dreaded it. We were going to have this bratty kid, and it's our client's daughter, and she's probably awful, and they didn't pay me a dime, so it was at my own expense that I drove from Hinesville to Savannah every single day. But I worked for 3 months, and I worked for Mary Carswell. I don't know if you guys recognize that name, but she and her husband Jim Carswell own Spy Hop Productions here in town. Okay. And our paths have crossed many times since then, so I don't mean to be long-winded, but there's a value in that too. Yeah. I worked for Mary, and I worked hard. I did not know a lot, and I listened, and I learned, and I really tried to add value as much as I could, which is difficult when you're a junior in college and have no real professional experience. I'd been a telephone operator and worked in a clothing store and at a newspaper, but I really don't know that I could have added much to what they were doing, but I worked really, really hard. And so at the end of it, they were actually very relieved that I was not a brat. And it actually worked to their benefit as well as to mine. And when I graduated college, one of the account executives was leaving to have a baby and had decided not to come back to work. And they hired me. So when I had a job before I even graduated to come back here and work for an advertising agency.
Awesome.
The career continued to go from there. I got married. I went to Augusta for a little while. I worked for the Georgia Golf Hall of Fame in Augusta, which was fabulous.
Okay.
Had never heard of economic development, didn't know what that was when a headhunter contacted me about the job at the Savannah Economic Development Authority as Director of Marketing, and I really had no idea. And when I interviewed, I remember seeing dirty boots and maps, site plans and sewer maps, and just, it didn't look very. I was at the Georgia Golf Hall of Fame in Augusta, Georgia. It was a beautiful thing,
Right.
And so
Right.
I was a little nervous about the transition, but ultimately, I left for a little while for a few years, worked for the Savannah Technical College, and worked for the Savannah Music Festival. But when CETA called me to come back, I'd done 3 years there, left for a little while, and called me to come back. So overall, I've been there now 17 years.
Wow.
And my first day on the job was 1996.
Awesome.
But it really, I think the whole progression has really been about real passion for what I was doing. I was fortunate to love the mission of really every organization I've worked for, but the Savannah Economic Development Authority in particular, with the goal to create, attract, and grow jobs and investment in this area and increase the standard of living for this community. And now thinking more regionally, as a region.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a long answer.
No, that was perfect.
Okay.
So to segue from that to LSEGA, Leadership Southeast
Yes.
Georgia. So how did you get involved with that?
So I had done Leadership Savannah in 2006, I believe, and I did Leadership Georgia. I was very fortunate to have been part of Leadership Georgia in 2010, best class ever. and so a colleague of mine, Lee Acevedo, in our organization at the CETA, Savannah Economic Development Authority, she had done it, and she was then on the board, and she was so enthusiastic, and it was through her eyes that I saw Leadership Southeast Georgia as something that was really valuable and good and well done. And she asked me to do it, and she nominated me for the class. It took me a couple years to be able to be clear on the dates. There are 5 weekends, or not even weekends now, Thursday, Fridays, that you have to be available. And with there only being 5, you can't miss one and still graduate.
Right.
So there were a couple years I couldn't do it. And finally, when I did, I was blown away by the experience, quite honestly. The fact that the organization is entirely volunteer driven is remarkable. And recently, we've always had some support from Suzanne Kirk, who is our facilitator and who facilitates each one of those sessions and guides them and adds the leadership development component to Cynthia and Wright and Cecilia Russo, who are helping us with fundraising, organization, and marketing. So they're all working for us on contract. But when I went through the program, I think there might have been one part-time person, and Suzanne, one few hours a week, and Suzanne, and I just couldn't believe the quality of it. And I don't mean the quality of exclusivity or getting to see big fancy places and people with lots of money.
Right.
I mean that the experience was enriching and educational and informative, and the relationships that were built, I believe, by the participants in that class were real, and the dialogue was meaningful, and that I felt like it was a real tool, especially given my lens that is all things economic development.
Right.
That the Leadership Southeast Georgia was a tool that the region could use to elevate the region or to address issues or challenges collectively, and that network of people who now know each other from county to county to county to county, from Camden to Bullock, would be a great, powerful vehicle for good. And when I experienced all that, I came to Lee, who was pregnant with her first baby, and so she was kind of slowing down, the girl in my office who had introduced me to the whole thing. And she said, I'm going to be kind of backing out, and I'd like for you to get involved on the board. And the board, and we've all talked about it, would you please get involved? And I was very enthusiastic about being involved, and it isn't easy, and things don't always go exactly like we want them to. Again, especially when it's volunteers, that happens even in paid positions, but especially when it's volunteers and you all have families and full-time jobs and that sort of thing, it's sometimes hard to connect all the dots and make sure every single detail is working exactly like you'd like it to. And sometimes it doesn't. But overall, the good far outweighs the bad. The experience was one I will treasure, and one I'm excited about making available to as many others as possible in our region.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm new to Savannah, new to Georgia. Been here going on 2 years now. So in a nutshell, what is leadership? So it's Leadership Savannah, it's Leadership Southeast Georgia, it's Leadership Georgia, it's a couple other ones too, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of leadership programs that are geographically based.
Okay, so what is it, and why should people join it?
Well, I highly recommend that in whatever community you're in, that you plug into their leadership program. So for Savannah, it is Leadership Savannah, which is organized and operated by the Savannah Area Chamber of Commerce. And ideally, someone would have already gone through and graduated from their more local leadership program before they would apply to be a part of the regional leadership program, because then they would bring with them that much more connection, that much more understanding of their own community to share with the 10-county region. So definitely I recommend the local leadership program. And then this leadership program is regional in nature. So it's looking at the entire region and its issues, from natural resources to health care or health in general, to transportation, military, economic development.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So next question. So I guess more of the details about it. So there's a charge for it, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to let Cynthia answer these technical questions.
Oh, dear.
I know. I'll help. This is Cynthia. We're thrilled to have Cynthia. She is been with us now since January?
November.
November. I'm sorry.
No, that's
November.
okay. I'm excited to be on board. And yeah, I help the administrative part. So I do. One, I work with the public relations side, so I have my canned response on what Leadership Southeast Georgia is.
Okay.
But I also work with making sure that all the sessions are running smoothly, making sure that our facilitator, Suzanne Kirk, has everything she needs to make sure the weekend goes off well, and making sure that participants have everything they need. We have 28 class members this year from 10 different counties. So it is regional, as Brynn was saying. It really does try and connect all of these little counties together, so that if Savannah's doing something really well in transportation, maybe someone in Long County can take what we're doing and use it in their community.
Gotcha.
So it's like a brainstorming session with all of these leaders. And meanwhile, with our facilitator, she is actually doing these programming sessions where they're learning about their leadership styles, their communication preferences. So you're growing with yourself, but you're also bringing it back to your community. There is a charge to attend. Applications are open, I want to say June or July. I think we moved it up to there.
Okay.
And you can either nominate yourself or someone else nominates you. Usually a lot of alumni wind up nominating someone. They're like, oh, I love the program. Here's someone else who needs to be involved with it. We have a flood of applications.
I bet.
So it is a tough program to get into. This last year, I think some people had applied 3 times and finally got in, and they were all excited about it. So that it is hard to get into.
I can only imagine, because you only accept, 40-ish people, or no, how many people do you accept?
30-ish. Usually somewhere around the 30 numbers where we like to cap it, mainly because we want everyone to meet each other, to get to know the different personalities in the class, but also have an opportunity to talk. If it's too big of a class, some people might fall in the background, and we don't want that to happen at all. We want everyone to be really involved with the program.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So I stay in Richmond Hill. Would I go for Leadership Savannah first? Or is there a Leadership Richmond Hill?
There is, I think, a Leadership Bryan County or a
Okay.
Leadership Richmond Hill, and I think that might be run through the Chamber of Commerce there.
Okay.
And I should know that for sure, but I believe I'm right in
I
saying
believe so too. I think
Okay.
that every county has their own
Leadership
program.
Okay.
And I actually learned about a lot of them from the bios of the participants.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found out, Camden County, all of these different counties have their own.
Awesome.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay. So should I do that one since I live there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
From someone, I have not been through the program yet. I want to go through it. I'm going to go through Savannah first. But having the background and seeing, okay, well, session 1, we went to Little St. Simon's. We went to FLETC, which is this really cool program in near Brunswick.
Federal Law Enforcement Training Center.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Just the things they're doing are things in your community you have no idea about, but you should know about.
Gotcha.
Like these are so cool experiences. They're going to go in Savannah. I know that they're going to the airport. They're going to Memorial. They're going to all of these different places, all themed around the overarching themes of the program. But it is just so cool that I cannot wait to go through it.
Yeah.
I feel like a little tease, like I'm getting to read all of it, make the agendas, and I don't get to go.
Soon.
So I can't wait. Yeah, I cannot wait.
Also, yeah, I'm excited about applying.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'll get in sooner than 3
Yeah.
years, but I'm excited about applying. So Brynn, you've been through the program.
I
Clearly.
have, yeah.
So what is something you took from it?
Oh gosh, number one of all, I think, were the relationships, the relationships with my classmates. Some of those folks here in Savannah that I maybe knew but didn't know very, very well, and now they're some of my dearest friends. And when they have needs or I have needs or questions or just we reach out to each other. So we become a support network for each other in different ways. And so the bonding of the actual class members I've found to be probably one of the most valuable parts. Suzanne Kirk is the other great asset. She is really unique. She connects every tour, every visit, every presentation that's made throughout the session, planned by the volunteer site coordinators who plan all of that, and she really connects the dots in between all of those things and says, okay, you heard this, now what? And how does this connect to that? And let's talk about this. And then her contribution with her expertise in human resources in particular is very, very valuable. She does a piece through every one of the sessions. And I think there were things that I discovered about myself, even though I am almost 50 years old and I have done these personality tests and gone through all these, company retreats over the years. She brought things to that group that I found very valuable to myself in my own professional and personal development. One in particular that I loved most was leadership style. It was one of the things that I don't think I'd have ever done. I had done Myers-Briggs personality tests, and she does that with you too, and that was valuable, and I enjoyed it. But the leadership styles I found particularly interesting. It was how you lead, and what things you might need to work on, what things you seem to be, based on this test, very, very good at. Your management, your leadership and management style, one of my favorite parts. She is really a differentiator, I think, for Leadership Southeast Georgia.
Awesome. So I wanted to bring this back up one way or another, but so this is great segue. So before the show, we talked a little bit about you had this epiphany about your values, right? And you can share it if you want in a minute.
Okay.
But so what your value was in a nutshell is that your actions speak louder than your words, and you have to do what you say you got to do.
Yeah.
But you can share. You worded it in a way that was a little more powerful than what I just said. So, what have you seen come from Leadership Southeast Georgia? Like what you guys have been through the program. You've met people, you've made connections, you've given things. So, like, what is what's the action that's been taken because of the program?
So that's something we want to see. I can name a lot of little things.
Yeah.
Last
Little
year's
things
class
matter,
in
yeah.
particular, Jennifer Abshire and Lori Grice led their class. They have a homework assignment each year, and homework sounds heavy, but it really isn't intended to be. The homework is, you've heard all these issues and you're hearing about all these issues in our region. Break down into groups and decide which you feel most passionate about and how you might work to address that thing. And in last year's class, Jennifer and Lori and their group were very, very focused on workforce development, and they literally raised money right there.
Yeah.
And donated it to
A scholarship. Someone
That's awesome.
in Bullitt County, I want to say 2 students who didn't have the money to go to college.
Wow.
And they wind up giving them a scholarship for the first year, I want to say.
That's awesome.
Another good example is Healthy Savannah. Paula Chrysler she met, going through the program, she went to all these different counties that didn't have any health related resources going on. And she took Healthy Savannah's program and presented it to these different counties. And so that was pretty powerful too. But there are a lot of little examples of everyone in the homework groups or just being inspired with the
or just the
event.
networking, right?
Yeah.
I know of people who have their own businesses as entrepreneurs who have gotten business as a result of the relationships they built. So now somebody who has a business in Savannah is doing business with somebody in Camden County or Brunswick. So I've definitely seen a lot of business growth through the networking. I'll just say that Sam McEachern, president of Thompson Hutton, was in my class, and I'd known Sam for years, but he and I got to know each other better, and he is. Not that he wasn't one of my favorite people, but now I know him in a way that he is truly one of my favorite people on the planet, and I trust his judgment. And I would pick up the phone and call Sam in any minute and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think?
Yeah.
And that's something I didn't have before. And I don't think that I think sometimes as we get older, especially you can get a little narrow and not be expanding your friendship circles.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, you have your clique and that's comfortable and that's what you do. And I think that Leadership Southeast Georgia is just one vehicle, like Leadership Savannah, like Leadership Georgia, that does expand that. And real friendship is also one of the results in some cases.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and you said that at the beginning of the show too, is it's always more who you know than what you know. So that's
not more, but it is important.
I don't know. I don't know. I have a college degree.
That could be another show.
Yeah, it could be another show. Yeah, I have a college degree, and I've only ever gotten a job because of somebody I know. So anyway. Yeah, so the time has flown by. Is there any other? So, how can people reach you guys? How can people get in contact with you? We're not done yet. Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
But I just wanted to
Sure, absolutely. We are active on Facebook. You can always message us there. Also, our email address is LSEGAinfo@gmail.com. That's LSEGAINFO@gmail.com. Or feel free to just run into one of our alumni or our board members, and they will point you in the right direction. And everyone's so proud to be involved with LSEGA. You can find out who's involved in this secret network of Savannah.
That's awesome. Okay, so last question before we go. I don't know the question. I'll try to think of it real quick.
Last question. Make it up.
Okay. I got a good one. So as far as networking goes, I do believe in it. And that's why I started the show, and that's why I joined the JCs, my fellow JCs member. And that's why, I'm so interested in having you guys on here. So, how has networking affected your business, your
wow.
Or even tips for people out there listening that want to get more involved in the community? How they can network better.
I'm in my position because of networking, honestly. Like Brynn, she started out and with an internship in college. I did as well, and I worked my little tushy off until I got myself a job at the same firm. And I've been with them for 5 years since. I moved from intern to junior partner within those 5 years because I'm not afraid to get out and meet people, get to know the network and your community. and meet those influential people who can help open doors for you. Like Brynn said, it is what you know, but it's also who you know that really makes a difference. So networking just personally has affected me a lot, professionally as well.
I have often heard it said that you just have to show up.
Yeah.
And for people who are maybe not so comfortable networking, who maybe don't have the most outgoing personalities, and that's not a bad thing. It takes all kinds. But who maybe is ambitious, even though networking is not something that would, be on their top 10 list of things to do, just show up.
Yeah.
I think when you show up, the outgoing people take care of it for you. They will pull you in. They will pull you in because they're excited to welcome new people to their cause or their event or their thing. So I say show up. Make yourself go. And I don't always enjoy it. I'm not much for small talk. Yeah. And even though I think I'm an outgoing person, I just don't much enjoy the small talk. I don't think you have to do that. I think you just show up and you just be authentically who you are, and folks will pull you in, especially in this community, and I think throughout Southeast Georgia. In most of these communities, that would be the truth.
And joining little groups like Leadership Southeast Georgia, the JCs in our case, those smaller groups are a great vehicle to really meet and have those authentic relationships form.
Yeah, right. Especially once you start getting involved and joining boards and becoming part of the leadership. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for being on the show so far. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we're going to come back with the lightning round.
Okay.
I haven't prepped you guys on this, but it's going to be fun.
Okay. Promise?
Yeah. All right, so we'll be back in just a second. Once again, I'm here with Brynn Grant, Vice Chair of Leadership Southeast Georgia and COO of the Savannah Economic Development Authority, and also Cynthia Wright, Administrator of Leadership Southeast Georgia.
Perfect.
So we'll be right back in just a second.
Okay.